So the next thing I'm going to bop to is really Azure Functions. So Azure Functions, again, how many people have heard of Azure Functions? How many people are using Azure Functions? Cool, they're cool things. And with a lot of these things, this demo of Service Bus and writing this application was very simple, right? I didn't need a degree in architecture to figure this stuff out. It's very accessible if you know it's there. You have a simple scenario that needs it. You don't have to write a big application to leverage these services. You can do something simple and small and get something very sophisticated out the door pretty quickly. So keep that in mind as you're pulling these things together. Now, be forewarned a little bit as well, because this stuff is so easy. If you're not careful and not thinking ahead, you're going to end up with service sprawl and a whole bunch of things that you're not going to be able to manage. And there are other services out there that will help you out when you have a big ticket enterprise architecture that you need to deal with. Okay, so I'm going to go to the function app, and we don't care about the README, handy little keys and such in case I need them. And again, this demo function is incredibly simple. It's basically a HTTP request. This is the, I know how to do that. I did know how to do that. It's just been a while. 150, is that what we decided? Is that good? So again, this is pretty much straight out of the Azure documentation, simple sample demo Azure function, okay? Nothing to it. It is a hello function. It handles gets and posts. It processes name out of the query string, and then it drops hello plus the name into the result or the response, okay, with the return. As long as the name isn't null, it's going to return a response saying hello, whatever you say, and it's going to, if I didn't pass in a name, it's going to give me a bad request. Nice thing about Azure Functions, again, this is simple functionality, and I can run and debug this locally. The service bus itself doesn't really make sense to run locally. But Azure Function, even though it's serverless and hosted by Microsoft, when you run it, there is a client-side emulator that you can run to test your function out. And here it's firing up the emulator, and because it's a demo, it's going to take longer than it normally does. But trust me, I'm going to get a local web instance of this that I'm going to be able to execute my hello function against. So let's just go ahead and grab this guy. There's my local host. And we'll fire up, who should we fire up today? Firefox. Never IE. Don't ever use IE again. But you all knew that already. So yeah, please pass the name in the query string. That's what it says, trust me. And if I say name equal Fred, say hello Fred. Okay, pretty simple, right? I'm going to save you a little time. I put the cake in the oven, shocking, I know, and it's already hosted on Azure, so I'm not going to bore you with doing the deployment, which might take a few minutes.
What is the life cycle of Azure function? Is it all in request scope? Is everything static?
Dynamic, so it's spinning this up as it needs it, and it's destroying it after some period of time, not clearly defined, right? So you're getting the request, you're doing something with that request. You only get so many minutes as well with an Azure function, so thank you for the question, because it reminds me to tell you, it's a function. It's not an application, so you do have to be careful with threading and managing state, right? And if you're, depending on the resources that you are using, you'll need to lock them and protect them so they don't get, you're not trashing yourself, okay? Let's see, who's the last person on the team? He's not here right now, but I'll give you a reference, and he can tell you horror stories about, again, no, it's not Kelly. Jason, I think, if, again, other people have probably run into as well. So be careful with the resources. Now, the other interesting thing about Azure Functions, so out of the box, the consumption model is, I'm only going to charge you, Azure says, I'm only going to charge you when you actually use the thing, and you get a lot of invocations and a lot of CPU time just built into it. So it's, more or less a free service. So if you're doing something pretty simple, hey, it's cheap and it's cheap and easy. You want something more sophisticated, start thinking about other approaches to your problem. There is a premium model as well, where premium, you get to pay more, but you get more services, more stickiness, and startup time. So think about this. When somebody hits this HTTP request, if my function isn't alive, Azure's got to go grab a VM, spin it up, initialize it, load my code, and run it. It's fairly quick, seconds, multiple seconds, but it's not immediate.
What would you think about using Azure Functions as an alternative to Web API?
Is Steve Byerly here? No. All right. So I can say whatever I want. I'd be careful. I would say yes for sure, but again, the name connotes, like, say, how far you would want to go with it, right? So I think you can if you've got a simple API, you're using it occasionally, you expect the requests to be short-lived, don't really have to do much, then it makes a ton of sense, right? It's what the service is there for. Additionally, we talked about premium. There's also, you can also deploy your function inside of an app service. So we haven't talked about app services yet, but it's basically hosted web apps similar to other. I thought you said I got a foot, no? Perry, no, don't go past Perry. How about if I move Perry over a foot? So you can deploy the function into app service, so you get the benefit of the model, and you get the benefit of fixed resources for your function. You're paying more for it that way. You're paying app service prices. We have deployed functions within app services where we were already deploying a web app that had to be up all the time, or has to be up all the time, and we add a function or two into that app service, and it's running in shared space inside that app service. Again, when you deploy an app service, a web app, you're provisioning a fixed or committed to resources under the covers. It's not always a VM; it's a shared VM, right? If you're doing premium plans, you're getting more dedicated virtual machines. The other recently, Microsoft also introduced durable functions. So further complicating my answer to your question of should I use it for a web API? Sure, why not? What the heck? Maybe is the real answer. Durable functions will actually maintain state from invocation to invocation to invocation. So in a classic sense, Azure Function, these are designed to be stateless. You spin them up, you need state, you better go get it, because when you die, it's gone. Durable functions actually allow you to define some durable state that can be passed to further function invocations. Going back to the whole BizTalk thing, now allows me to orchestrate an event stream or something like that, right? So I'm doing some processing. I got to do this to it. I got to do that to it. I got to do this other thing to it, and I want to split that up into functions. So that is a capability. All right, so we took a quick look at the code. I run and debug locally. I can also go into Visual Studio and let me stop this guy. And don't ever do this, says the DevOps guy. Right-click, publish. But again, you're in a development environment, you're testing stuff out, playing with it, right-click, publish, but as soon as you have something real, put it into a pipeline of some sort and publish it from there. So we talked about some of the new features. In the interest of time, I think I'm going to just keep rolling here. This is the deployed app. Some of the nice things about this function. Again, it was incredibly sophisticated code. So believe me when I say it runs. But there is a nice little runner up here. So which is now over here, given my screen resolution. I put in a name and I say whatevs, and then I scroll back over here and I hit run. Actually, I swear I keep doing this and it just keeps coming back. I don't know. Hit run, and I should get a request body of whatevs, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Maybe I'm not hitting the button hard enough. So trust me, it works. We'll see that later. Okay, so quick run through Azure Functions. So far, so good. Yes, also VS Code, but again, today's topic is VS 2019. So a lot of these things can be done in VS Code. There's a number of extensions that are coming along, and sometimes making it a preferable environment depending on specifically what you're doing. So if you're doing lightweight web development, pushing out to web server, Visual VS 2019 is not required.